Good day, students. This is GE 6103, living in the IT era. And I am your OLC, Ms. Crisaline P. Copreros. We will now discuss the digital development. When you say digital development, it is the various levels of digital divide, which must be bridged to promote widespread digital usage within a society. There are 9 living guidelines designed to help digital development practitioners to integrate established best practices into technology-enabled development programs. We will now discuss the 9 principles of digital development. The first one is design with the user. This is different from designing for the user. Designing with the user can only be attained through conversation, observation, and co-creation with the people, client, or target market who will be using the eventual digital product or tools. Successful digital initiatives are rooted in an understanding of user characteristics, needs, and challenges. User-centered design, also referred to as designing thinking or human-centered design. It starts with getting to know the people you are designing for through conversation, observation, and co-creation. Information gathered through this engagement leads to building, testing, and redesigning tools until they effectively meet users' needs. By designing with the users and not for them, you can build digital tools to better address the specific context, culture, behaviors, and expectations of the people who will directly interact with the technology. The core tenets of the first principle, design with the user, are as follows. It should incorporate multiple user types and stakeholders in each phase of the project lifecycle to direct feature needs and revise the design. It should have clear objectives and open to a process of repetition. It should improve users' current processes. And aside from considering the needs of the underserved, it should always be open to people opting out of the design process. Embrace an interactive process that allows for incorporating feedback and adapting your tool after the initial testing and launch. Be open about setting expectations and let people opt out of participating in the design process. The second principle of digital development is understand the existing ecosystem. The ecosystem is a political, economic, social, technological, environmental, legal, and other factor within the group or geographical location where the final design product would be used. A very important thing to note is that the ecosystem is ever-changing, thereby requiring the digital developers check and analyze their assumptions. Well-designed initiatives and digital tools consider the particular structures and needs that exist in each country, region, and community. Dedicating time and resources to analyze the ecosystem or context where you work helps to ensure that selected technology tools will be relevant and sustainable and will not duplicate existing efforts. Ecosystems are defined by the culture, gender norms, political environment, economy, technology infrastructure, and other factors that can affect an individual's ability to access and use a technology or to participate in an initiative. Initiatives that do not account for ecosystems challenge are less likely to achieve their objectives or scale. These may also lead to unintended consequences. The ecosystem is fluid, multifaceted, and ever-changing, requiring that digital development practitioners regularly analyze the context to check their assumptions. The following are the core tenets of this principle. Engage with your target users and consult existing research to develop an understanding of people, network, cultures, politics, infrastructure, and markets that make up your ecosystem before designing your initiative or your tool. Coordinate with other implementing organizations, civil society, and the government early on to learn from successful and unsuccessful initiatives in the ecosystem, to avoid duplicating efforts and to integrate with existing technical systems more easily. Ensure that your initiative aligns with the existing technological, legal, and regulatory policies, and that you consider policies that are currently in development. Involve community members, donors, local and national governments, and other implementing organizations throughout the project lifecycle. And monitor the ecosystem for changes throughout the project lifecycle and adopt your products, tools, or initiative as needed. The next principle is design for scale. The elusiveness of achieving scale is a goal that has been hard for digital developers because of pilotitis. The help describes it as the inability to move initiatives beyond the pilot stage. From that start, it is a must to design for scale. Designing for scale means planning and strategizing beyond pilot stage. Aside from the obvious concern about funding an initiative and continuously funding it after the pilot stage, digital developers must take into consideration its usability and bottom line, or bottom line affordability, in order to achieve scale in the future. Designing for scale means thinking beyond the pilot and making choices that will enable widespread adoption later, as well as determining what will be affordable and usable by a whole country or region, rather than by a few pilot communities. You may need to evaluate the trade-offs among processes that would lead to rapid start and implementation of a short-term pilot versus those pilots that requires more time and planning but lay the foundation for scaling by reducing future work and investment. By designing for scale from the beginning, your initiative can be expanded more easily to new users, markets, regions, or countries. If the initiative meets user needs, and has a local impact. The core tenets of this principle are plan and design for skill from the start. Develop a definition of skill for your initiative. Keep your design simple, flexible, and modular to make it easy to change your content and adapt to other contexts. As you make technology choices, think about whether they will make it easier or harder to scale. Identify partners early who can help to scale your tool or approach. Consider your funding model, including revenue generation options, social business models, the cost per user, and financial paths to sustaining the initiative. Gather evidence and demonstrate impact before attempting to scale. Don't attempt to scale without fully validating that your initiative is appropriate in a new context and address a priority need. That is about designing for scale. Now let's discuss build for sustainability as another principle of digital development. Very closely related to designing for scale is building for sustainability, because this fourth principle is about ensuring user and stakeholder support be maximized and uninterrupted. Working hand in hand with NGOs, corporations, or the government ensures that the initiative achieves institutionalization in the policies, processes, and user workflow. Sustainability ensures that user and stakeholders' contributions are not minimized due to interruptions, such as loss of funding. A program built for sustainability is more likely to be embedded into policies, daily practices, and user workflow. For many digital initiatives, institutionalization by a non-governmental organization, private company, or local government is the ultimate goal in achieving long-term positive impact. For others, institutionalization is achieved by developing a business model that has a sustainable revenue generation. The core tenets for building for sustainability are plan for sustainability from the start. Develop a definition of sustainability for your initiative. Identify and implement a sustainable business model. Use and invest in local information technology service providers. Engage local governments and integrate national strategies into programming. Collaborate instead of competing. And partner to identify the best approach with the greatest impact. Build a program that can be adopted as user needs and the context change. So those are the core tenets for building for sustainability. Now let's be data-driven. Informed decisions by decision makers can only be achieved if the initiative is data-driven. Data produced and collected from such as those from surveillance, research, operations, project management, and even secondary sources enable the right people to make the right course of action. No amount of data will lead to accelerated impact if it is not used to inform decision making. The data produced by a digital initiative should be used for more than just outputs, such as published work or donor reporting. Examples of the types of data that can be collected to inform decision making includes surveillance, research, operations, project management, and data from secondary source collected outside the program. These are the core tenets for being a data-driven as a principle of digital development. One is design programs so that the impact can be measured continuously and incrementally, focusing on outcomes, not just outputs. Make use of existing data, including open data sets and data from interoperability systems. Use rigorous data collection methods. Consider and address potential biases and gaps in the data collected. Perform data quality checks and maintain strong documentation behind collected data. Close knowledge gaps by contributing data to the development community and using data and interoperability standards. Use quality real-time and timely data to support rapid decision-making, improve programming for users, and inform strategy. Present data informats that are easy to interpret and act on, such as data visualizations. Create a data use culture by prioritizing capacity building and data use efforts across all stakeholders groups, including the groups whose data are being collected. Be holistic about data collection and analysis. Collect data from multiple sources and use a mix of data collection and analysis methods. Analyze your data collaboratively with stakeholders. Identify the use open data and interoperability standards. And collect and use data responsibly according to international norms and standards. So those are about being data-driven as a principle of digital development. Now let's have use open standards, open data, open source, and open innovation. More often than not, digital content and innovations are locked away behind licensing fees, only to be used and available to specific sectors. To help increase collaborations in the digital development world, an open approach through open source technologies, open innovation, open data, and open standards that still takes into account the practical, technical, security, and privacy constraints should be the way to go. Programs can maximize their resources and ultimately their product or impact through open standards, open data, open source technologies, and open innovation. By taking advantage of existing investments, when you are able, you can apply finite digital development resources towards creating global goods. What being open means for your initiative will depend on practical and technical constraints. security and privacy concerns, and the dynamics of the people and networks in your space. For example, to what extent your initiative uses open source software will depend on the needs identified for your context and an assessment of which of the available options best meets those needs, factoring in their total cost of ownership. The following are the core tenets for this sixth principle of digital development. Define and communicate what being open means for your initiative. Adapt and expand on existing open standards. Specifications developed by, agreed to, adopted by, and maintained by a community that enables sharing of data across tools and systems. Share non-sensitive data after ensuring that data privacy needs are addressed. To encourage open innovation by any group or sector, do not place restrictions on data use. Use existing open platforms where possible to help to automate data sharing. Connect your tools or system with others and add flexibility to adapt to future needs. Invest in software as a public good. Develop new software code to be open source, which anyone can view, copy, modify, and share, and distribute the code in a public repositories. Enable innovation by sharing freely without restrictions, collaborating wildly, and co-creating tools when it makes sense in your context. The next principle of digital development is reuse and improve. This is very much related to the sixth principle. Reusing and improving an existing or currently available resources, tools, or products greatly makes you more efficient because of reduced cost of development and testing. Your improvement of the existing technology will help the global development community once you have shared it openly. Instead of starting from scratch, programs that reuse and improve look for ways to adapt and enhance existing products, resources, and approaches. Reuse means assessing what resources are currently available and using them as they are to meet program goals. Improve means modifying existing tools, products, and resources to improve their overall quality, applicability, and impact. Start by identifying relevant methods, standards, software platforms, technology tools, and digital content that have already been tried and tested. You can learn about digital development tools that have been piloted or scaled through conferences, blogs, program evaluations, and the digital development community. While an existing tool or approach may not exactly fit all your needs for reuse, consider improving and building on it rather than creating something entirely new. The result is a tool that is now better and more usable by all because of your improvements. Reusing and improving is not about designing shiny new objects or limiting a technology to internal use. It is about taking the work of a global development community further than any organization or program can do alone. Reusing and improving can also dramatically reduce the time needed for development and testing, and it reduces your cost. The following are the core tenets for reuse and improve. Identify the existing technology tools, local and global, data and frameworks being used by your target population in your geography or in your sector. Evaluate how this could be reused, modified, or extended for use in your program. Develop modular, interoperable approaches instead of those that stand alone. Interoperability will ensure that you can adapt and build on components from others, and others can adapt and build on your tool in the future. Collaborate with other digital development practitioners through technical working groups, communities of practice, and other knowledge sharing events to become aware of existing tools and to build relationships that could lead to the future reuse and improvement of your tool. The next principle is address privacy and security. This involves careful consideration about which data are collected and how they are stored and shared. Organizations or entities collecting data should be responsible enough to be transparent in how they collect and use personal data. Security measures and policies that protect and uphold an individual's dignity and privacy should be in place and made known to the individual. Responsible practices for organizations collecting and using individual data include considering the sensitivity around the data they have collected, being transparent about how data will be collected and used, minimizing the amount of personal, identifiable, and sensitive information collected, creating and implementing security policies that protect data and upholds individuals' privacy and dignity, and creating an end-of-life policy for post-project data management. So that is addressing privacy and security as a principle of digital development. Let's have its core tenets. Define ownership, sovereignty, and access before any data are collected or captured. Determine what local data protection laws and regulations need to be followed. Who gets to decide what to do with the data? Who is allowed to access or use the data? And where data can or must be stored. Keep the best interests of end users and individuals whose data are collected. Perform a risk-benefit analysis of data being processed. Assess the risk. Understand that risks are highly contextualized, not just to countries, but also to communities, populations, and period of time. If working with vulnerable or marginalized communities, what groups might have motivation to acquire your data? How capable are they? And are the information access controls around data sufficient? Minimize the collection of personal identifiable information. Catalog and track any personal or sensitive information captured throughout the project. Create a plan for mid and post-project destruction, or secure offline storage or sensitive data, including the review of hard drives, cloud file, flash drives, email inboxes, and other common sources of data leakages. Be transparent with individuals whose data are collected by explaining how your initiative will use and protect their data. Obtain and inform consent prior to data collection. Protect data by adopting best practices for securing and restricting access to data. Examples of the best practices includes encrypting files, using two-factor authentication, restricting access permissions, storing data on secure servers, or secure cloud storage services, and implementing organizational security policies and procedures, including data sharing agreement with all data sharing partners. Upholding these tenets is essential to ensure ethical implementation of digital development initiatives and avoidance of negative outcomes that may result from security breaches. Following data privacy practices and security safeguards protects the interests of communities while promoting trust between end users and digital development practitioners. Confidentiality and security of personal data should be maintained with an aim to preserve the dignity and security of individuals represented. The ninth principle of digital development is be collaborative. This principle not only brings all other principles together, but it's actually a part and parcel of each and every principle of digital development. Simply put, collaboration is the sharing of strategies, insights, and information across individuals, sectors, projects, and organizations, leading to increased impact and efficiency of initiative. Being collaborative means sharing information, insights, strategies, and resources across projects, organizations, and sectors, leading to increased efficiency and impact. These principles brings all others together in practice. By collaborating, those working in digital development and beyond can pool their resources and expertise not only to the benefit of each initiative, but also to strengthen the global community. Collaborating does not just happen accidentally. It requires time, planning, and dedicating resources to look for and develop opportunities. So these are the 4 tenets of being collaborative. Understand how your work fits into global development landscape. Identify others working on the same problem in other geographies and determine if there is a community of practice. Find the technical leaders in the global and regional organizations, such as the World Bank, the World Health Organizations, etc., who can help you disseminate your work to other teams, regions, and countries. Engage diverse experts across disciplines, countries, and industries throughout the project lifecycle. Create an engagement plan to apply this expertise at all phases and incorporate insights through feedback loops. Look for tools and approaches from other sectors and publish your findings so they're available to other groups or countries. Plan to collaborate from the beginning. Build a collaborative activities into proposals, work plans, budgets, and job descriptions. Identify indicators for measuring collaboration in your monitoring and evaluation plan. Document work, results, process, and best practices. And define how your project will contribute locally. So that is the end of our discussion for today. I hope you have learned something about the 9 principles of digital development.